The Board of Public Works and Safety meeting for Thursday, November 7th, 2024 is now called to order. All board members and legal counsel are present. First, we have approval of our minutes from the meeting on October 31st, 2024.
If there are no questions or corrections, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on October 31st, 2024 as presented.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next are claims for payment dated November 8th, 2024 in the amount of $244,944.57.
I'll make a motion to approve claims for payment for November 8th, 2024 in the amount of $244,944.57.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we also have a special payroll claims for payment dated November 1st, 2024 in the amount of $891.79.
And I'll make a motion to approve the special payroll claims for payment for November 1st, 2024 in the amount of $891.79.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have a street closure request for the demolition of the Elder Bierman building. We have Lieutenant Black from the Police Department to present on the street closure.
Good evening.
Evening.
Michael Breeze of O'Rourke Wrecking Company is requesting some street closures for the demolition of the former Elder Bierman building. The date set for this request is November 18th, 2024 till November 25th, 2024. The closure will include South 7th Street between East Main Street and South Service Drive. Some of the description of the work, it's going to be the demolition of the pedestrian bridge from the former Elder Bierman building to the, the actual parking garage is what they're going to be working on. The alley on the north side of the garage will also be closed in addition to the pedestrian traffic on the east side of 7th. Maintenance of the traffic plan from the project is, I think you guys have that.
We'll make a motion to approve the closure of South 7th Street between East Main Street and South Service Drive, as well as the alley on the north side of the parking garage from November 18th through November 25th, as presented by Lieutenant Black.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have openings for the request for proposals for the comprehensive plan refresh. Bear with me for a minute. First responses are from Planning Next from Columbus, Ohio. Second proposals are from HWC Engineering, and these responses to the RFP will be taken under advisement. And moving into contracts and addendums, first we have addendum number 1 to contract number 149-2020 with Lexipol LLC. We have Assistant Police Chief Adam Blanton to present on this addendum.
Good evening.
Evening.
So the City of Richmond Police Department wishes to continue our partnership with Lexipol LLC. They are the providers of our policy and procedural manuals that allows us to be best in class with the rest of the nation. So this contract is not to exceed $16,679.73, and this is an annual subscription, so this is just a renewal.
Mr. President, if there are no more further questions or comments, I make a motion to approve addendum number 1 to contract number 149-2020 to Lexipol LLC in the not-to-exceed amount of $16,679.73 as presented by Assistant Chief Blanton.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We also have addendum number 1 to contract number 156, 2024 with Sensor Security Systems. We have Roseview Transit Manager Chris Becker to present on this addendum.
Never done this, so I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, I just didn't have enough fingers and toes to count. So when I originally made the contract, it should have been $480 a year for monitoring service, and I had $360. So I'm waiting to raise it the difference.
Mr. President, so you're upping it $120
Yeah.
overall? Okay, fair enough. If there are no further questions or comments, I make a motion to approve addendum number 1 to contract number 156, 2024 to Sensor Security Systems in the amount of $480 total from $360 total, which represents a $120 difference, as presented by Transit Chief Becker.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And in miscellaneous business, we have first order number 1, 2024, which is the acknowledgement of the resulting vote of the active membership of the fire department's secret ballot to reject the merit system pursuant to the board.
Mr. President, I make a motion to acknowledge order number 1, 2024, which is acknowledgement of the rejection of the merit system by the fire department.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And before we get into our final item of business, which is the vicious dog hearing with Brandon Wood, we will take a 5 to 10 minute adjournment to sign documents and then start the meeting back up.
Not an adjournment.
Or recess.
Recess.
Yes, thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Scheduled hearing of Brandon R. Wood of 1911 Valley Drive of Richmond, Indiana, in connection with a vicious dog termination is now called to order. 3 board members and legal counsel are present. Richmond Police Department will present evidence and testimony first. Brandon R. Wood may then present evidence, testimony, conduct cross-examination, and present any rebuttal evidence. If either side has more than one witness testifying about the same fact, it can be stipulated in the minutes that there are a number of witnesses attesting to the same fact, but only one witness speaks to that fact. Board members are to write down any questions you might have for a witness in order to remember your question. After both sides have questioned or cross-examined the witness, board members may then ask their questions. The same format will be followed for each witness. After witnesses have been heard, each side will have an opportunity for closing remarks. Brandon R. Wood will have the right to final closing remarks. Counselor Vessels will now explain the additional procedural matters of the hearing.
Thank you. Each person stepping up to the podium must state their name, job title if applicable, and their address. Please speak clearly into the microphone. This is being recorded. Copies of any evidentiary exhibits must be provided to each board member, to the opposing party, to board counsel, and to the deputy clerk. If copies are not marked with exhibits, marked as exhibits with numbers or letters, I will assign a designation to each exhibit. Stipulations must be stated for the record, and both parties must acknowledge on the record that a given fact has been stipulated to. The charges against the owner must be proven by the Richmond Police Department by a preponderance of the credible evidence, and the board must find that the city met this burden of proof by the majority of the quorum of the board. We do have a quorum here today. Any affirmative defenses asserted by the owner must be proven by him by a preponderance of the credible evidence, and the board must find that that burden was met by a majority of the quorum of the board. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to Richmond City Code 91.15B, and the board has jurisdiction to hear this matter. This hearing is being held in an open public meeting, and in the event the board members do not render a decision tonight, they will announce a decision at a potential future meeting. Not sure if it would be a week from now or perhaps 2 to 3 weeks from now. We do have a holiday coming up. The hearing is being recorded by the deputy clerk. Each side may provide the clerk with a flash drive after the hearing, and she will save a copy of this recording on your flash drive. You may create a transcript of this hearing that is saved on your flash drive at your expense. Now, at this time, all witnesses who may be called to testify will be sworn in by me right now, so please stand if you plan on presenting or testifying or being a witness. Please raise your right hand. We'll wait for those in the back. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kim. So at this point, whoever will be presenting on this hearing on behalf of Richmond Police Department, if you'd like to come to the stand and make your start presenting evidence.
Hello, my name is Officer Durbin. I am a Richmond Police Department Animal Control Officer. I'm also a special officer. I have a few witnesses I'm going to call forth in regards to this matter. I will note that there are some possible discrepancies versus reports and what have been said. I'm going to ask my officers what they were observed, and they're going to give exactly what they were told and or have seen themselves. And that may be seen as a discrepancy from what others have been hearing. So I think the first officer I'm going to call is going to be Officer Bray.
Hello, I'm Connor Bray with Richmond Police Department. I'm a patrolman,
How long have you been working for the Richmond Police Department?
just under 4 years.
4 years. And you are currently an FTO, correct?
That's correct.
Alrighty. Were you working or in the capacity of your role as a police officer for the city of Richmond on September 14th of 2024?
Yes.
Alrighty. And during this time, were you in full uniform and operating an RPD patrol vehicle?
Yes.
On September 14th, were you involved in or dispatched to the 900 block of Valley Drive?
Yes.
What was this regarding?
Dog bite.
Okay. And at this time, you did have your training going on, correct?
Yeah, at the time I was field training a younger officer in his second phase of FTO, so I was still performing roughly 80% of the duties. I would say 50 to 80% of the duties. I was performing the other half.
Okay.
If I could interrupt really quick, I think the council wanted to bring a microphone up, Desiree, so that you could,
Or you can have a seat over there,
just so we can make your
so we have you on the record better.
questions clear for the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Can you describe what happened when you arrived on scene and what you observed, please?
Myself and Officer Reed, who I was training, arrived on scene approximately 5 to 7 minutes after initial officers had already made contact with the victims. Once we got on scene, I observed that no dogs were out at that time. A female was sitting in a lawn chair on the front yard. She had multiple injuries on the right side of her body, both her arm and her leg. Did not speak to her at that time. I made contact with officers who had already been investigating, asked those officers what happened, and then they went into explaining the situation.
Okay. And what did they say to you had happened?
I was told that a dog from an address, I believe it was 1905, I think, 1911, just down the street, had jumped a fence and then attacked a female that lived at 1900 Valley Drive, I believe, and as well as her dog. It also it jumped his fence and then continued over to her house, possibly jumped her fence, and then attacked her and her dog when she tried to separate them.
Okay. And did you make contact and identify the dog owner of the attacking dog?
I did. I made the presumption that it was the female who had already been attacked.
Okay. And so the other dog involved that lived at 1911 Valley Drive, you did speak to his owner as well?
I did, yes.
Okay. And did you explain to the owner the quarantine process and that goes along with dog bite quarantine in Indiana?
Yes, I explained to him the quarantine process and the duration that it needed to occur.
Okay. Is there anything farther you feel like you should add?
When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, this dog did jump a fence. It was uncontained and attacked another female and killed another dog. So, I mean, regardless of any questions or this or that, I mean, the dog went out of its way to harm and maliciously attack a human and another animal. So I believe that it is, therefore, a vicious dog.
Okay, thank you, Officer Bray. Officer Stevens, could you grab Officer Cooper from the hallway for me, please?
Well, we need to make sure that the other side has an opportunity to cross-examine the officer. Is the owner here? Do you wish to cross-examine this officer? Sure. You could probably sit at that table right there so that we can make sure that you are being heard by the recording.
Sit next to the microphone to pick you up.
Thank you. So you just ask questions if you want. He's not testifying. He's not testifying.
Okay.
He'd
Yeah.
have to, would he?
If there are any witnesses that you do have questions for, you'll have that opportunity, or right to. So we'll make that available to you after every witness's questions by RPD.
I'm sorry, Officer Bray. I do have one more question for you. Were there any tickets or violations that were written that day?
Yes, I issued a state infraction ticket to the owner of the suspect dog in this situation for his dog running loose and causing bodily injury.
Thank you.
And Kim, we have the opportunity to.
Yes,
question
now
those.
that everyone's questioned the board.
Any questions from the board to Officer Bray?
Yeah, Mr. President. In reviewing the yard that the dog was originally contained in, were there any open gates? Was there ability to crawl underneath the fence, or was it totally contained and jumped over the fence?
From what I saw, it was a fairly high privacy fence. I did not see any gates that were left open or holes under the fence.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Yeah, thank you.
Can we get Cooper, please? Yes, sir, please.
Before Officer Durbin starts asking you some questions, would you be able to state your name, job title, and work address, please?
It is Christopher Cooper. I'm a patrolman on second shift, 50 North 5th Street, Richmond, Indiana.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Officer Cooper, how long have you been employed with the Richmond Police Department?
February 20th, 2018.
Okay.
Almost 7 years.
And were you working in capacity of a police officer for the city of Richmond on September 14th, 2024?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And you were in a full uniform in a marked RPD vehicle, correct?
Yes,
Okay. On September 14th, were you involved in or dispatched to the 900 block of Valley Drive?
I was.
Okay, and what was this regarding?
Dog bite.
And can you please explain to us what you observed when you arrived on scene?
I observed Miss DeVito sitting in a chair, covering some wounds. Got out, spoke to her about medics. Medics had already arrived on scene and cleared up. So we started taking information about an animal that had been bit as well as her being bit.
Okay. And what information did you gather from all this?
Initially, I gathered that when I started asking questions and it was kind of chaotic, that a dog that was across the street had jumped a fence and then jumped another fence and attacked a dog and a female. After further statements, it was actually determined that the female victim was walking the said animal.
Okay. And were you there when the attacking dog or the aggressor dog, his owner was identified?
No, I was not. Well, I was present, but I wasn't at the residence, no.
Okay, so your involvement only involved Mrs. DeVito?
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything further that you would want to add into your statement?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Wood, just to make sure, do you have any questions for Officer Cooper? Okay. Any questions for Officer Cooper from the board members?
Mr. President, Officer Cooper, same question I asked previously. Did you observe the fence? Was there an opening? Was there a gate open? Some way the dog could get other than jumping over it?
I did not walk over to the property at all.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board at this time?
Officer Cooper, could you clarify, so you said that initially you believed that the dog had jumped 2 fences, but then you found out that Mrs. Cooper was walking, is that, or what was?
Say that one more time. You cut out at the end.
Oh, so you said that you initially believed that the dog had jumped 2 fences. Did you then learn that it had not jumped 2 fences, or?
Correct.
Okay. But the attack was in the Miss DeVito's backyard?
No, so that was the initial
Okay.
understanding of it. It was 3 or 4 people there explaining the situation. Officer Bray arrived on scene, and his trainee took the report, and I informed him that I believe that's what I had heard. And then it was later determined through statements that was not the case.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you, Officer Cooper.
Next, I'd like to question Miss Joyce DeVito.
Ms. DeVito, before RPD starts asking you some questions, could you state your name and address into the microphone, please?
Joyce DeVito, 1900 Valley Drive.
Thank you.
Hi, Miss DeVito. I'm Officer Durbin. Could you please describe the injuries that you received from this dog bite?
I had a couple places on my leg that from trying to get Lily from the dog, And I didn't notice it till that night that there was a bite mark right here on my finger, and didn't notice it till I got in the shower. Basically, I was more concerned about Lily than what was on me. I had her blood all over me, so I think people looked at me and thought that maybe I had, more injuries, but most of that was Lily's blood.
Okay, and I know it might be hard, but could you describe the injuries that had happened to Lily that, ended up?
Killing her?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was walking in front of Jeremy Screddy's house, which is pretty much straight across from Brandon's. I walk Lily all the time in my neighborhood, and we were on the sidewalk across from Brandon's house, and the dog came. I didn't see the dog, but obviously he came behind me because I would have seen him if he was in front of me. And Lily was right here on my right ankle, pretty much right beside me, like she always is. And the next thing I know, I heard a yipe, and I turned, and the dog had Lily and wouldn't let go of her, and I couldn't get her away from her. And I tried my hardest, but I just couldn't. I mean, Lily, I think, finally just gave up. She wasn't breathing when I picked her up, but I think she went into shock, and because I did get her to breathe again because she made it all the way to Dayton, but the dog just wouldn't let her go. And if it hadn't been for the boys, Kira Payne and John Totten's boys, there was a birthday party. They live like straight, like if you would run into their house, basically. It's on Northwood, not on Valley. And they were having a birthday party, and the boys had been out. They'd seen me walk by with Lily two times before this happened, and they came running and screaming. And of course, I'm screaming and yelling for help and trying to kick this dog off, to get my Lily back, and because she wasn't letting Lily go. And the boys, I think, are what scared Brandon's dog. And the next thing I knew, she finally let go of Lily, and I scooped her up, and I turned, and the dog ran straight back and jumped right back over the fence. And I was just hysterical. And the boys, they put their arms around me and said, come on, we'll take you. And I said, no. I need to go home. I didn't have my phone on me. I didn't have any way of calling for help. And the one had gone before the others got to me and had gone and got their mom, which is Kira Payne, which she was wonderful. And she is the one that went to Brandon's and took me over and pounded on the door. And when Brandon came to the door, she said, your dog just killed her dog, because Lily's jaw you could see her jaw look like it was broke. But I didn't realize at the time, I was more worried about what I could see because I had her up against me. But the dog had gotten her stomach area first, and that's what killed Lily. They said they could have fixed her jaw. They couldn't fix the injuries from the dog biting her stomach area, which I just had her up against me, so I didn't even realize that until everything was, my shirt I had on was covered in blood. Then I realized that came from her stomach, from the stomach bite area. And I felt terrible because she was my grandpup, I loved her to death. She's 12 years old, and I've walked her whole life, and I've never had, there's been dogs that have gotten loose before that, and we've had one other incident with Brandon's dog, which I didn't realize at the time because I only knew their husky, didn't know this other one, but the other incident was in, I'm going to say the springtime, and I was in front of my house that day, and it must have jumped the fence, and it ran Lily in circles. Didn't come after her and just clinch onto her like it did that time, but just kind of acted, like it ran her. And I kept saying, Lily, stop, so I could pick her up. But it broke her nail that time, like she had a torn off nail because there was blood on her paws, and couldn't figure out at first what happened. But then once Mindy saw it, she said, Mom, it had tore a nail off from just Lily trying to get away. But like I said, I'd only ever seen their husky, and I didn't realize they had a different dog. And then, other neighbors, after the whole thing, I had tons of neighbors that came flying out of their houses because they heard me yelling and screaming for help. And Christina Falcone that called it in, she and her daughter were standing at the door, and she said that's why she said she called it, because she saw it, happening. So that's her 911 call that came in. And she said she had seen the dog jump the fence multiple times. And then once we started talking to the neighbors, because then I'm like on high alert, I just tell any of them that I know that walk their dogs, don't walk down my street. Go around Northwood, don't come down Valley. And we had incidents where, somebody would say, oh, yeah, I was walking my dog and it jumped the fence, and had to yank my dog up. And then we have Matt Haynes that he wrote out a statement that he had been injured on his hand. The dog had bit his hand, and he had come back to the house and told him about it. So I know, once this happened to Lily, then I found out that they did know that the dog was jumping the fence, and people had told them that it was jumping the fence. I don't know if you have any other questions.
No, you're good. Thank you so much, Mr. Vito.
Thank you.
Mr. Vito, Mr. Wood has the opportunity to ask you any questions if you have any, Brenda. Okay. Any questions from the board to Mr. Vito? I guess I had one, and I think I understood it correctly. I just want to clarify. You said there was a first incident with Lily. You said that was with the husky, not...
No, that was with,
Okay.
I thought they only had a husky
Understood.
until that incident. And then my neighbor that lives beside me, I didn't know where the black dog came from, and she's the one that said that they had gotten, that it had came from where the husky lives.
Okay.
So then that's when I realized that they had two. I just had only ever seen the husky before, so.
Understood. Thank you.
I do have one question. You did say that you saw the dog jump back over the fence.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, sure did.
Any other questions from the board? All right. Thank you, Mr. Vito.
Alrighty. I'd like to question Mr. Wood, please.
Okay. Mr. Wood, if you could step to the podium, please. And if you could again state your name and address for the record, please.
Brandon Wood, 1911 Valley Drive.
Thank you.
Mr. Wood, were you aware of Ash jumping the fence?
Yes, he has jumped the fence before, never in an aggressive manner. I didn't know about the Matt Haynes guy that she referred to. He had came to the house one day. I did not speak to him. My girlfriend had spoke to him, and he did say something had happened to where he did get something on his hand. Nothing else came of that. And usually he'd hop the fence and hop right back. Never attacked another dog or nothing like that.
And to your knowledge, were there any holes in the fence or areas where he could get out that would not cause him to jump it?
No holes.
Okay. And how many times, to your knowledge, had Ash jumped the fence prior to this incident?
We've had him for a year and a half. I don't know, 10, 15, 20 times. Not often, but I have known him to jump the fence, but hop right back. I mean.
Okay. And did you take any steps to try and prevent Ash from being able to jump the fence?
Yes. Being outside with him definitely helped. There were times where I would let him out back and not be outside with him, which would be the time when he would jump, not every time. I did do my best on keeping an eye on him when he was in the backyard. We had a lead in the ground. It ended up breaking before all this. I didn't have a shock collar or anything like that on him to try to keep him in the yard.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Board members, any questions for Mr. Wood? I think I just have one. Brandon, would you be able to describe the fence around your backyard? Is it like a privacy fence or?
No, it's definitely not a privacy fence.
Okay. Do you have an approximate height of that fence?
I would say 4 or 5 foot chain link fence.
That's all I had. Anything else from the board?
Yeah, one question. When you realized this was, he had the ability to jump the fence, sounds like you moved to going outside with him and having a lead and all this other stuff. So what happened on that day? Were you not outside with him?
No, it was not.
Were you at home?
Yeah, I was cooking dinner at the time.
All right.
Final questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
I guess at this time I'd like to call Mindy DeVito.
Mindy, would you please state your name and address, please?
Mindy DeVito, 2541 Richwood Drive, and that's Richmond.
Thank you. I think once they're ready, Officer Durbin will ask you some questions.
Hi, Mindy. Could you please describe the injuries that had happened to Lily?
So when I got to Lily that night, her jaw was hanging, and we later found out that it was completely broken. Also, there were puncture wounds all around her stomach and lungs, and several had gone through to her lungs.
Okay. And I understand that you have a few exhibits that you would like to show. Can you please explain what those are?
So in these folders here are all the medical bills or medical pictures of Lily that night, as well as just the documentation from the vet that we used. And then also in there is the statement of what happened that night, kind of our plea to you guys, and then also a statement from a neighbor that was also bit by the same dog.
And I'd like to give these exhibits to Ms. Vessels if...
Yes. Yeah, if you don't mind, bring those too. So we can get
Might be
them
some
stamped.
extras. I think there's 7 or 8 there, so.
We've got 7 exhibits. Number that's 7. I'll give them all to you, but I'm just going to stamp them one at a time. Exhibit 6.
They all contain the same documents. I don't know if that matters.
They're all the same
Yes,
document?
they're all the same.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we will call this Exhibit A then.
Okay. Write A on there. How's that?
Monica, will you hand that to Mr. Wood, please? Monica. Really?
Board members, you felt you had time to review the exhibits? Okay. Officer Durbin, if you want to continue, start asking Ms. DeVito some questions.
Hey, Ms. DeVito, I just have a few questions for you. In this first case report that we were given, the one that's stapled with 2 pages, in the first paragraph, you wrote that initially we did not have the correct date on our reports. I have looked through the reports, and all of them say September 14th, except one that says the 19th, and that's because it was created at a later date when he was told he needed to make a second report for this case. Is that what you were referring to?
No, just the correct documentation of what happened on that date.
Okay. Okay. So this is not signed. So can you clarify who wrote this first initial packet in our?
I did.
You did? Okay. And could you clarify who wrote the second?
I did as
paragraph?
well.
You did as well?
My mother's
Okay.
help, yes.
And this third one, it was wrote by Matt Haynes, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And these did come from the med vet?
correctly, yes.
Okay. Now, we've had a lot of, assumptions of what had happened to Lily, and it's a hard question, but I do need to know, and it does need to be said on record, if Lily did or did not die from her injuries.
She did.
Okay. And did she pass away at the med vet in Dayton or beforehand?
She did, in Dayton.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have.
Ms. DeVito, Mr. Wood has the right to ask you any questions. Do you have any questions, Mr. Wood? Okay. Hearing none. Board members, is there any questions you have, Ms. DeVito, at this time? Okay. Hearing none, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm just going to conclude with my closing statement real quick. Based off of the statements we've been given by the 2 officers and by Ms. DeVito and her daughter, this dog in this case does fall underneath the vicious dog ordinance, and the fact that he unprovoked attacked and killed another domesticated animal while they were out walking. I strongly believe that this dog should be considered a violent animal.
Okay, do you want to move on to, thank you, do you want to move on
Yeah,
to
I have one,
question?
maybe a question for after Mr. Wood gets the chance to make his closing statement, but would the board have the opportunity to ask questions by Officer Durbin or the police department, Chief Weatherly?
I mean, they've essentially said they're closing. I do want to make sure that they get to ask their witnesses any questions. But since we're between sides, if you want to go ahead and ask questions, that would be acceptable.
Yeah, Officer Durbin, Chief Weatherly, I think the one question I have from your perspective is what if there's any specific recommendations that Richmond Police Department has on the outcome of the vicious dog determination is in, I know the board has the ability to impose, can't remember what the code calls it, additional powers of the board, I guess, as it relates to vicious dogs, is in impoundment, sterilization, et cetera. Is there a recommended action according by RPD?
Based off the information that I'm aware of, it would be my recommendation as police chief of the Richmond Police Department that this dog be humanely euthanized. So the information provided, this is not the first incident that took place with this animal. Under testimony from Mr. Wood, this dog has jumped the fence 10 to 15, 20 times, and steps were taken that they had a lead in there that was broken. He went outside with the dog, and the dog didn't jump the fence when he was outside, but he would allow the dog to go out and not be outside with that animal. So even though he took additional steps, there were times that he did not take those additional steps, which is a safeguard for the community. It is well known by testimony from Joyce DeVito that she is telling the neighbors who have the right to either walk down their street or walk their animals down that street, and they don't actually do it or get the opportunity to do it because of the fear that this dog is going to jump that fence and either attack a person or an animal. So with the testimony given, sadly, me being a dog lover that I am, I would recommend humanely euthanizing the animal.
Thank you. And I believe closing statement was misspoken, but end of your witnesses and presenting evidence. Thank you, Chief. All right, at this time, Mr. Wood, if you would like to come up to the podium, and if you have any opening statements, you are welcome to make those. And then if you have any witnesses that you want to call or cross-examine, this is your opportunity to do that as well.
So is this exhibit, want to call this exhibit 1 for the respondent?
Okay.
Okay, so 1 for, you have your own copies? Okay, I didn't mark that, but I'll mark it later. So call that exhibit 1.
Mr. Wood, before you start speaking, if you don't mind giving the board just a minute or two to review the documents that you passed to us. Thank you. Board members, if you felt that you had time to review what you wanted to. Okay. All right, Mr. Wood, at this time, you have the opportunity to present evidence, testimony, call any witnesses that you would like to the stand, and present any rebuttal evidence based on what Richmond Police Department has presented up to this point. So is there anything you, I guess you have your opportunity to start whenever you're ready.
Yes, first off, I've expressed how sorry I am that this has happened. Very, very sorry. It's an unfortunate situation. All the people that say that he has helped offense and attacked them or this or that, I have not heard about. The Matt Haynes guy, this was sometime, I can't recall if it was earlier this year or last year when that incident happened. Like I said, I did not talk to him. My girlfriend did. I don't know the exact situation of what happened, how he got bit on his hand. He's not aggressive. I know it doesn't show that way because he attacked this dog and severely hurt the dog, which resulted in it dying. He's playful. He loves people. He loves running around. He's hopped a fence and he has played with the neighbor's dog. Never attacked a person. I know Miss DeVito did get attacked. It was from breaking the dogs up. It's not like he to go after a person. I guarantee he will never be out of the fence again. I have taken him out on a leash every single time since the incident, except for one time, which was the day after the incident on September 15th. I let him out in the morning to go to the bathroom. I went outside with him. When I went to leave, about an hour later, the cops were called, showed up again. I explained to them that I was out there with him. He went and hopped a fence, and that's when the officer said I should have him out on a leash or lead. And I agreed. I have complied with that. I have him out on a leash every single time, not even a lead. I'm not risking anything happening with it. I have him out on a leash. I'm out there with him. He's never, ever getting out of the yard again. A lot of lies on the police report. I know we've kind of concluded with that now, that it didn't happen in her yard. It didn't jump my fence and her fence. In their report here, it also says that both of my dogs have busted out of the front door. Completely false. That's never happened. My husky's never been out of my yard. Ash has not been off the property since the incident, and I know that's been stated, and that is completely false. I do not believe he should be euthanized. I get how tragic this is. It's his first incident. It's going to be his only incident. I guarantee you that. I don't know. I don't think he needs to be euthanized. Killing my dog does not solve anything. I'm going to have him on a leash. He's never getting out of the yard again. I don't know. Their first incident I did not know about. And I don't know. I don't think he should be euthanized, and I'm very sorry. And he's never getting off the property again.
Brandon, is there anybody that you want to call up to ask questions of?
Well, can we have Officer Durbin ask any cross questions? Cross-examination questions?
Mr. Wood, what report indicates that your dogs had busted through the door?
The report that Miss DeVito gave us in the manila folders here. In the first paragraph of the dangerous vicious dog hearing up top. Maybe the second paragraph. Where did I see it at? Maybe the second paragraph. It says in the second paragraph, it was only 2 weeks prior to this occurring that both dogs at the home slipped out of the front door. Completely false.
I just wanted to clarify for the record that that was not in the Richmond Police Department report.
Any other questions before the board asks?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions from the board to Mr. Wood?
Mr. Wood, have you been able to read 91.15,
Yes.
the code? So by what's laid out here in these 5 points under A, would you deem your dog as vicious based on this?
Any of them or all 5 of them?
Any of them?
Well, yeah, then yes. Vicious dog, I mean, he does fit the description. I just don't believe, does that mean it has to be euthanized? Is that the only result we can come from this?
So
I don't know who I'm asking on it, but I just,
if the board wants to know the answer to that, the euthanizing is part of the additional powers of the board. The board would have to make special findings on that. So if you want to entertain that, that would be something where I would recommend that each of the board members write up their written findings and then come back on a later date and read those findings. But there are items in the code that would call for that. If the board does not do those special additional powers, there are still the automatic requirements that don't require any special findings. So that would be, again, what the board would look at if it's going to entertain any of those additional powers.
Yeah, and Brandon, I guess I would say that Section C compliance requirements of that 91 section of the city code, which I know was not in, is in the full printout that you could get of that part of the code, outlines all of those automatic requirements and what that means. And after that, like Councilor Bessel said, there's a set, 3 additional powers that the board has, or decisions that can be made about the dog. So that would either be immediately impounding until the requirements of the chapter of the city code are met, ordering sterilization, or ordering that the dog is euthanized. Any other questions from the board?
You had an opportunity to review the compliance requirements. That would be if the dog is found vicious but not
yes, I had
euthanized.
received a copy of that from, I don't remember your name, sorry.
Officer Durbin.
Yes.
And you could commit to fulfilling those requirements.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right, if there are no other questions, thank you, Mr. Wood. Do you have, I think I already asked if you had witnesses at this time, unless you have any other testimony that you want to make. Both sides will have the opportunity to make closing remarks. So if you don't have anything else, Brandon, I believe Richmond Police Department will make their closing remarks first, and then if you would like, you have the opportunity to after them.
Thank you.
So It is a tragic event. There's no winners here. Again, I said it earlier, I am a dog lover. I understand the need for responsible dog owners and the importance of a community to feel safe walking the streets of our community. In this situation, they didn't have that safety. Those responsibilities of the dog owner were not met. So Mr. Wood has said that he can meet those requirements, but we're just a little too late on that. There were discrepancies within the report. I do believe with testimony tonight that we have been able to clear up some of those discrepancies. There was some miscommunication between officers, and we brought them in tonight so they could speak on what they heard, what they reported. Unfortunately, Officer Reed is away at military right now, so we were not able to have him in today. But he was with Officer Bray, and Officer Bray did speak on what his knowledge of the case was. So I do believe that with everything that was presented tonight, we have met the preponderance of the evidence that does classify this animal to be a vicious animal. So with all that information, we do just ask that you take everything into consideration and make the best decision that you think fits in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Weatherly. Mr. Wood, would you like to make any closing argument or closing statement to the board at this time?
Yes, again, he meets the criteria of the vicious dog. I do not think euthanization is a result that needs to come of it. Everyone deserves a second chance, and a second chance, and I will grant me, and I will not fail. I have done everything that I can since this incident to definitely make sure it's not happening again. He's never getting off the property. I hope people can walk by, see if he is outside. I'm out there with him. He's on a leash. He's no chance he's getting to them. They see it once, they see it twice, they see it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Every single time he's out there, he's on a leash. I'm out there with him. They know. Hopefully they can get that feeling of I'm out there. He's not getting out. No way. Not happening. Impossible. And they can, I hope, find their safety within themselves to enjoy their walk and not have to worry about me or my dog or my house or anything in that area. And I can't stress enough, he's not getting off the property again. I mean, it's not happening. Vicious dog, he does meet the definition, he does meet the criteria. Euthanization, I do not think is a correct answer.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Thank you.
I think at this time, Kim, I have one question primarily. So we have the ability to vote on whether the dog meets the definition of vicious per the city code, as well as the additional powers that have been discussed already with euthanization and everything. Is, I would say, considering the additional powers to prepare findings of fact based on the code, a decision on that should be rendered at a later date. Would the board have the ability to vote on deeming the dog vicious tonight and also revisiting the additional powers and the findings of fact at a future meeting?
It technically would have that power. I would tend to recommend against that, only in the interest of buying any more time as necessary. for compliance, but the board, yes, would have the power to go ahead and do the vicious dog side tonight and then table the hearing, table the matter and reconvene it at a later date to vote on that. And the reason is that there is also an appeal period, and so I have to make sure that that is communicated to them while they are here. So, you know, and we can separate that out because there would be an appeal period on the vicious dog part. But then if the board comes back later for the voluntary findings, there would be another appeal period. So
Okay.
there really are two options on that.
And I think for the sake of the other board members, I think my intention with asking that was that because the automatic requirements automatically kick in if we deem the dog vicious, that, you know, that.
It starts the, an appeal timeline and the 20-day
Okay.
compliance timeline, yes.
Understood. I would ask other board members, is there any recommended plan of action that either of you two have at this point?
So I really have a question for you. So if we go through the vicious decision tonight, the steps automatically kick in, we come back in, then there's another appeal period after whatever we deem. But if we deem it to be just the automatic kick in, there is no other appeal after that, correct?
There would be an appeal after that because those are special findings that have to be made. So it's,
If we didn't go above and beyond anything additional.
oh, if you did not go above and beyond,
Yes.
correct. So he would have, I believe it's, let me make sure. And you know, that is reversed. It would be 7 calendar days to comply with the automatic requirements, but 20 calendar days to appeal it. So if the board only decides on just the vicious dog determination with the automatic requirements, they've got 20 days to get that done, but they would only have 7 calendar days to actually appeal this to Wayne County Circuit or Superior Court. And was there another question that I thought I heard
It was to us.
when I was looking at Jamie?
Not that I know.
It was to us on what we thought.
Oh, yeah, my question on what the board,
I would support taking a vote on the determination of whether or not the dog is vicious this evening, and then,
revisiting
Yes.
the additional powers. Okay, yeah, I agreed as well. So with that said, I would now entertain a motion to declare the dog in question from 1911 Valley Drive is vicious, and that the automatic requirements of Chapter 91.15 of the City Code go into effect.
Second.
All right, motion has been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and like Board Member Purvis said, this board will also have the opportunity, and Kim, if I say this wrong, please let me know, the opportunity to entertain a motion to take the additional powers of the board in that decision under advisement and render a decision, I guess I would say a week from today's date, if that seems reasonable. Okay.
So, and that's good. I would like to reiterate the appeal things, but
Yeah, of course.
normally what boards have done in the past is each board member would send me their written recommendation, and then you can all read your findings. Sometimes it's 2 to 3 sentences, sometimes it's, 2 to 3 paragraphs, as long as it complies with the finding provisions under 91.15 D2. So the board would have to make findings of fact to support its determination that such sanctions are necessary to protect the public safety. And then you consider the factors of 2A, 2B, and 2C. So if the board wants to come back next week and do that, but then I would like to go ahead and just say to Mr. Wood that this part of the hearing where they said that they voted that the dog is a vicious dog. There is 7 calendar days to comply with those automatic requirements. And then there's 20 calendar days if you want to appeal this to the Wayne County Circuit or Superior Court. So that is 20 calendar days, not business days. So if that clears that part up, any other questions or concerns?
Don't think so.
Okay. So the board will come back next week, and I'll get with the deputy clerk on making sure that the agenda has that part of the agenda set up. Any questions from either party before? It's 7 days to comply with the automatic requirements. Let me double check that, just in case. Yes, this is under 9.15 B4. The owner of any dog declared to be dangerous or vicious shall have 7 calendar days to comply with the automatic requirements, those are in section C, outlined for the dangerous or vicious dogs, and then 20 calendar days to appeal such determination. If there, and what I'm seeing here, so if next week the board decides for, let's say the board wants to not euthanize but wants to impound, there's another 20 calendar days to continue to comply with sterilization or that. But during that time period, 20 calendar days, you would have the right to appeal it to the Wayne County Circuit or Superior Court. Spay or neuter?
I took it as the council probably picked a less harsh example than euthanization, just for the sake of the example of the timeline, more than if that's actually the decision that would be rendered, if that makes sense.
Any questions from RPD?
So, yeah, I do have one question. In the event that the requirements, the automatic requirements here are not met within those 7 days, do we need to bring that back to the board prior to impounding, or do we just go ahead and take the animal for impoundment?
I believe the impoundment would have to be in order.
7 days is next week, so it'd be
Yeah.
right
And-
at, basically at the end of this meeting, right?
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking. If
That would have to
it's not
be-
met by the time we meet again next Thursday.
That would have to be ordered on Thursday by the Board of Works.
Do we need to make sure that we get on the agenda for that, or are we going to go ahead and have it on the agenda?
I'm going to work with the deputy clerk to make sure everything is on the agenda as far as just coming back so that there can be a secondary determination on whether the board wants to do the additional powers.
May I address Mr. Wood?
Yes.
So, Mr. Wood, in some of those requirements, you are required to have that additional insurance policy of $100,000. I would ask that you make sure that you bring that or provide that to us prior to that 7 days, or bring that with you to the next Board of Works meeting in 7 days when we come back, okay? If you do get it before then, just reach out to Officer Durbin, let her know that you have it, and we will get it added to the case packet, okay?
Board have any other questions?
I don't at this time.
I don't.
One more?
That's correct.
No, you're verbally on notice right now. You don't have to be here, but you're verbally on notice that this will be held next week and it will be on the agenda.
Yeah, Right, kind of like tonight, so we hold the meeting at 5 o'clock, and then this will be at the end of the agenda, so probably get to it around 5:10 to 5:15 at the latest. Thursday again, yep, 1 week from today, and that will be, I don't believe, questioning, or it's not like a hearing quite in this way, but just the decision will be rendered by the board at that time. So if you want to be here to hear what that decision is.
That's correct. If you do want to open the floor for extra hearing, you can, but you're not obligated to.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Kim.
Any other?
This time I would entertain a motion from the board to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second?
All right, motion's been properly made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're now adjourned.
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, WGTV, Channel 11, part of the Whitewater Community Television